Hello and welcome to day 8 of the China blog, and this is our first real romp through Shanghai, and this was a really neat day. We went to the Jade Buddha Temple in the morning, and here you're seeing some photos of the sights we saw along the way, including a lot of beggars.
Yep, it's pretty evident they knew where the tourists were going to be.
Don't be an ugly American. Then we go into the temple, and this for me was one of the highlights. I thoroughly
Right
enjoyed
here,
this.
we are in the Jaipur Temple. The first hall in this temple is called the Four Heavenly Kings Hall. According to Buddhism, the four heavenly kings are the generals.
And we lucked out and we were there for this bi-monthly kind of special ceremony that brings out a lot of the local worshipers, and it was really busy and crowded. The incense, it was just, the smell of it was overpowering, but also the ash from the incense was just all over in the air. It looked like it was snowing, but it was a really interesting thing to watch. And I think we commented about it'd be hard to imagine us in a sitting in a church pew and having a bunch of tourists filing through and snapping pictures. But
The kids felt almost irreverent doing it, but it was so neat to be there and see it.
yeah, I felt irreverent too, but I got over it. Now, Captain Obvious named this temple too. It's called the Jade Buddha Temple because there's two big jade Buddhas there, which you're also not allowed to photograph, and I'm a chronic rules follower, so I didn't. And one of the things I think maybe startled a couple of kids was seeing some of the swastika imagery that's prevalent in Buddhism. In fact, the symbol made its way into Chinese culture through Buddhism, which spread through the Indian subcontinent into China along the Silk Road trade routes.
And it's known as the heart seal and represents eternity.
Another thing I noticed about this and some of the other religious sites is there seems to be a lot of commerce going on there as well. I think you had to buy the incense. Somebody's probably making a buck off of that.
And the candles.
And the candles
And
the tea. We went through actually another tea ceremony, which was a little anticlimactic because we'd already done one, but the tea was good. I think we did. We wound up buying some from this place and still enjoying it. And then, of course, on the way back to the bus, we encounter yet more street vendors. You're never far from some of them either. No sale. There were, however, I think several sales at the silk factory. Here's our happy little tour guide and slash salesman.
well, he may have been trying to sell us something, but he really taught us a lot about how silk is made as well.
Yeah, we got to go inside the factory and see its manufacture, and a lot of it you see some of the machinery, but a lot of it is done by hand, and from kind of picking out the silkworms to the ladies who were
They had two processes really going on. They had the fibers, and then they were also making batting to fill silk comforters.
they had all kinds of silk products there. Obviously, not just the comforters and the cloths, but shirts, ties,
Robes.
underwear. Then we step outside and get another sales pitch. This guy was more successful than the last one. I think we bought some product from him. And from there, we went on to the Bund, which actually I was a little disappointed when I got back and looked at my photos because I had a lot of pictures taken from the Bund of the skyline across the river, but not a lot of pictures of the Bund.
The Bund is the area that was built up by the colonials. So it's the older European style buildings on the one bank of the Huangpu River, whereas you see the Pudong side, which is the high rises.
Yeah, and actually, I think there are actually height restrictions in the Bund today. Then we went through a tour, and this is kind of unique. Shanghai is one of the few, maybe the only Chinese city that actually has a Chinatown because Shanghai had, for a long time was held by colonial powers and divided up, much as Germany and Berlin were after World War II. And what you're looking at here are some pictures from the Yuan Garden, which parts of which date back to the 16th century. The garden's only about 5 acres, but it was designed in a manner to make it feel much more sprawling, much more wide open. Uh, One of the cool little features you'll see here coming up is a little hallway with a bunch of little windows cut through the wall. and each one is framed. The view from outside is framed, so it looks like you're looking at a different landscape each time you pass, but you're only walking a couple of feet. That was kind of neat. From there, we went to what was probably the highlight of the trip for some of our shopaholics. That was the knockoff market, where you find a lot of, well, knockoffs. But for us, one of the highlights was going on the maglev train, the bullet train. It's powered by big electromagnets and actually hovers above the rail, doesn't actually touch it.
Its max speed is about 280 miles per hour, and when you're sitting inside, you don't feel like it. It feels like you're riding in a car because they have specially designed glass so that you won't get motion sick.
It cost 1.3 billion US dollars to build, and a little bit of question as to whether it was really worth it. It's just a one-line train that runs from the airport to the city, and it can do it really fast, but it's about $8 a trip, and there aren't a whole lot of commuters on it. Then at night to Nanjing Road, a very swank, very western part of the city, and we're kind of starting to get the sense that our trip's over.
In general, Shanghai just went by way too fast, and in retrospect, I just wish we had a little more time.
China went by way too fast. I'm looking forward to going back.
Me too.